Welcome back to the GSMC College Football Podcast. Had a big draft show, but going to switch gears a little bit, talk about some of the quarterbacks that have committed in the transfer portal, as well as a big pickup for the Michigan Wolverines. First guy, though, Jaden Rashada, the former one-time Florida commit, then Arizona State guy, then Georgia guy, is now going to Sacramento State. He announced this on Friday. Still has his whole lawsuit against Florida and Billy Napier right now over his NIL deal that fell apart when he was a high school recruit. But this is a move that is going to create some buzz at Sacramento State. Obviously, Sac State is trying to level up. They are applying to become an FBS independent, move up from the FCS. I think they're probably going to try to position themselves to join a conference in the near future once they're at the FBS level. But this is a move. This is a big-time pickup for Sac State. But I think this was a guy that was the 84 overall recruit in the 2023 class. Sac State hired former UNLV offensive coordinator Brendan Sullivan as their head coach in December. And this was a guy that created his own offense, really. Pioneer of, it's called the go-go offense. And essentially, the go-go offense kind of creates a triple option scenario at every snap, basically. They put two running backs in the backfield. There's a lot of movement and shifting with those running backs. Both running backs can get the ball in the backfield. The quarterback can run. Quarterback can pass as well. So it kind of really stretches the defense, really forces them to key in on certain guys to make decisions at a certain point in time. I think it's an offense that kind of fits Jaden Rashada, and Sacramento State is obviously trying to level up in football. They had a rough year last year, only won, I believe, 3 games. And it's going to be a big adjustment period for Sac State, but I think the talent pedigree, recruiting pedigree of Jaden Rashada kind of gives them a higher ceiling than potentially thought of. And this is a really unique offense that I think he fits well. He's got a dual threat ability. If Sac State has 2 running backs they like, this is an innovative look. The Patriots actually kind of used it when Cam Newton was the quarterback there, kind of built their offense around him. And this was a guy that also, Brendan Sullivan, he had Gus Malzahn to learn from. He went to Tulsa 2007, 2008, broke a bunch of records as a wide receiver there, and that was where Gus Malzahn was the offensive coordinator during that time frame. So has a little influence from kind of that Gus Malzahn 2010s Auburn offense. I think, though, this is a move that makes a lot of sense for both program and player. Jaden Rashada probably needed to step down in terms of competition after not seeing the field at all at Georgia last season. Started a few games at Arizona State in 2023, but did end up losing out to Sam Levitt there. So this is a guy that he needed a landing spot that makes sense. Sac State gives him a spot where he can start and where the pressure isn't super high, at least right now. Can be a guy that can kind of grow into that role and be a decent starter for Sac State. Has the potential to be a more high-level starter. I think that's kind of going to be an interesting move there of what happens with Jaden Rashada. I also think Steve Angeli going to Syracuse officially announced. This is a move that I really liked. Angeli hit the portal about 10 days ago, and Syracuse was looking for a new starter. They didn't really have a ton of depth in that quarterback room. Added LSU transfer Ricky Collins, who appeared in 4 games last season with the Tigers. Has only played, though, 33 career snaps, so a guy that doesn't really have a ton of experience. And he's the only quarterback on Syracuse roster that had any type of game experience before the addition of Steve Angeli. This was a team that was looking to replace Ohio State transfer Kyle McCord, who led the FBS in passing yards last season, led the Orange to a really surprising 10-3 season. Head coach Fran Brown, who was the Clemson defensive backs coach, has really kind of highlighted, upgraded the Syracuse football program. And I think Steve Angeli makes a lot of sense as a guy that could be a 1 or 2 year bridge starter for Syracuse. doesn't also have a ton of experience. He's only started one game ever. That was the Sun Bowl against Oregon State in 2023. Had a decent game, went 15 of 19, 232 yards, a couple touchdowns in that game. Also was forced into action in the College Football Playoff semifinal against Penn State. In his one drive, he went 6 for 7, 44 yards, but did take a sack at the end, and Notre Dame had to settle for a field goal. However, he did drive him down the field. This is a guy that I don't know if he has the highest ceiling, but at the very minimum has a really solid floor as a guy that won't turn the ball over, is going to be solid, steady quarterback. You probably won't see a ton of exciting quarterback play from Steve Angeli, but a guy that I think can be a really decent starter at a Power 4 program. And Syracuse is a really good fit for him. They didn't have a ton of experience. Obviously, Angeli has only played a couple games over his career, but a guy that's a 3-year backup, backed up Riley Leonard, backed up Sam Hartman before. So a guy that still has a little more seniority than anybody else in that Syracuse quarterback room. I think it's a move that makes a lot of sense. And at the minimum, it kind of adds more to that quarterback competition. Steve Angeli might not win out. It could still be Ricky Collins, who seemed to be in the leader house for Syracuse. But I think at the very minimum, Steve Angeli gives them a really high-level backup if they do decide to go Ricky Collins week 1. And on the high end, Steve Angeli gives Syracuse a guy that can start and be a decent starter for them as they try to replicate some of that 2024 success. Another quarterback that transferred, and he announced he is committed to Tulane, is former Iowa Northwestern quarterback Brendan Sullivan. Tulane actually took in 2 quarterback transfers in the winter portal, brought in Jaden Simonza from Ball State, also brought in TJ Finley from pick one of the 4 schools that he attended before. Because they lost Darian Mensah, he transferred to Duke and got a really big deal to go to Duke. This was a team that needed a couple different options, and especially after TJ Finley's arrest for a stolen truck, that was a really interesting scenario there too. TJ Finley was suspended after that. He's now in the portal again. So Tulane needed a guy with starting experience, and Sullivan has that. He's started 11 Big Ten games over the past 3 years, started, I believe, 3 games last season for Iowa, and was still on that roster, but Iowa brought in South Dakota State transfer Mark Gronowski, who had a really storied career for the Jackrabbits there. And so I think Brendan Sullivan kind of saw the writing on the wall, but this is a good move for him, good landing spot. Tulane needed a guy to kind of come in and start after losing Darian Mensah and losing TJ Finley, and I think it gives Tulane a guy with starting level experience, and just veteran leadership overall. The last guy I want to talk about, though, I think this is a really interesting one. So, 4-star quarterback, 2026 quarterback Brady Smigiel has committed to the Michigan Wolverines. ESPN's number 4 pocket passer in the 2026 class. This is a kid that's 6'5", 210, from California, actually, so Michigan kind of reaching out across the nation. Number 45 overall recruit, and began the weekend as the cycle's number 2 available quarterback in this class. Was a former Florida State commit, kind of decommitted after that 2-10 season, after they hired Gus Malzahn, changed their offense a little bit. He really noted his connection with Michigan offensive coordinator Chip Lindsey, who had previously recruited him at North Carolina. And this is going to be a guy that the program tradition and also the opportunity to step in to their room behind Bryce Underwood, I think, were both appealing for Brady Smigiel. He shut down his recruitment at one point, and this is a guy that's got really standout arm strength, elite downfield accuracy, one of the better quarterback prospects in this 2026 class. Has been a 3-year starter as a quarterback, enter his senior season with over 11,000 career passing yards, 147 passing touchdowns throughout those 3 years. So this is a guy that's been super productive. Last season as a junior, threw for 3,500 yards, had 49 passing touchdowns, and led his school, Newberry Park, to a division title. This is a guy that's going to be a really great pickup for Michigan. At a minimum, he adds to that Michigan quarterback room, gives them more depth, gives them a really high-end option behind Bryce Underwood. Obviously, this is Bryce Underwood's team in the future, but the addition of Brady Smigiel gives them a really high-quality backup and a guy that could potentially take over for Bryce Underwood after his couple years as a starter there. But I really like this move from Michigan. It's just adds depth to that room. This was a quarterback room that was in complete shambles in 2024, and in just the span of one season, they're in much better shape for the future of that quarterback room at Michigan. Immediately upgrades their floor and their ceiling at the position and as a team overall. I really like the move, and we're going to see kind of what happens with Brady Smigiel there. This is going to be Bryce Underwood's show, but at a minimum, gives them a really great depth option, a development option behind him going into 2026 and beyond. So that's going to be all for our show today. Thank you so much for tuning into the GSMC College Football Podcast presented to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Please remember to subscribe, like, follow, share, all of that fun stuff. And if you want, you can also go to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok for more sports content, more sports updates that you love. Thank you so much, and have a great day.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to